Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finney, who fires the three, and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another episode of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Heard on great stations like 97.7 ESPN, The Ref in Evansville, WBRO in Maringo, and around the world on YouTube, where you should subscribe right now and hit the like button to never miss an interview or an episode. We're brought to you by AndyMooreHonda.com, where you will always find the best deals on new and used vehicles. They are the number one Honda dealer around. And Endeavor Hospitality's WOW Club. Be sure to go to your Apple App Store or Google Play Store and sign up for the WOW Club and start earning WOW rewards today from great places like BB's Market, where we're coming to you live. They have some of the best custom meats and in-house made products around. A full-size bakery. We'll be seeing some of that and much more, where you can join us here live each Friday from BB's Market. I'm Jim Coyle, host, and Dustin Schutte with me as always from Outsider.com. We've got another great show on tap for you today. Alec Lasley will be along from the Hoosier.com to talk some Indiana basketball. Zach Osterman coming along. Also, we're going to talk to the publisher from Rivals in Nebraska to see what the tail of the tape is out there. And then it's time for the red zone, baby. Jeffrey the Greek. Hopefully Mitchell Page is not going to be washed out. It seems like we've been dealing with this, even though we're far away from it, not dealing with the hurricane, but every day, Dustin, it's whether it was you at first, there's some concern, but we all have a lot of friends that live down in that western coastline of Florida. I talked to a good friend of mine while they were in the eye of the hurricane. I was sitting here watching the map at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios Pro Shop, and literally I could see the eye was right over where he is. So I'm like, hey, let me give Charlie a call. Oh, and I'm like, how's it going down there? It's just wild, but I shouldn't laugh because the afterlying damage that has been done, my gosh, this is, I don't want to say worse than, but, it makes you think of Katrina, the after effects, these homes underwater up to the roofs, some of them just destroyed. So, thinking about all of our friends down there, listeners, fans that are down there, we hope everyone's good. I know that there's a lot of people in the Orlando area that Jason and Sam that are usually popping on, but they live in that area. What's it been like in the Gainesville area? You're kind of in that cocoon because it went out away from you, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It hit, Fort Myers, obviously, the Sanibel Island, a lot of those places down there. And then it looked like we were going to get a pretty bad storm, but it was basically like a bad spring rainstorm for us. A little bit of wind, a little bit of rain, but nothing too serious. I do have friends and family that live in the Orlando area. There was some flooding. They got some fences taken down. There were some roofs that were starting to, I don't think they blew off, but they were starting to come unhinged a little bit. And then it went, and from what I understand, it also, like St. Augustine is under flooding because it went back out to the Atlantic Ocean after it hit the Gulf and then turned back into a hurricane. So I did send Mitchell a text the other day, told him to stay safe because this thing is no joke. I think last night when we recorded our This Week in Indiana Football, he said it's basically here. They were starting to get rain and wind from it. It's just, I don't remember.
It's supposed to hit Charleston later today, isn't it?
Yeah,
I haven't looked at the map this morning.
I don't know when it said it was supposed to, but it was supposed to be, I think, last night or today about that time. So I don't know. I don't remember another storm. I mean, Florida's a little bit different because it can go from the Gulf to the ocean, but I don't remember another storm that traveled this far and still had this kind of power.
It's the width.
It's insane.
The one thing, it was the width of this. They were talking about Hurricane Charlie, that because it followed the same trajectory, but this storm is 3 times the size.
Yeah.
In width and girth, so that which brings more water longer and all that stuff. So thinking about all of our friends and hoping everyone is safe and I hate to think about all the people without power and all that. So we're thinking about you guys and hope things are as best as they can be. 5 lefts. Lots of people already checking in with us on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Hope you guys are ready to get to it. A big day today. It's game day Friday. Big game to talk about, actually, because for several reasons. And I'm not talking about the other junk. We talked about that yesterday. And that seemed to really hit a nerve with some Nebraska fans, too, I think. They're like, look, that dude's got nothing to do with us. Well, and I would too. I mean, the guy's an idiot because you say something stupid like that, then you go out there, if you get beat, you just look dumber, especially when it would be a second time in a row that they had lost at home to Indiana. Yeah, you want to schedule Indiana more? So,
yeah, I mean, I again, I've talked about this numerous times, but why?
Not that, you know what? I wish if Indiana won, I wish Tom Allen would open his press conference with, well, this is our second time here in 3 years. I wish they'd schedule us at Nebraska a little more.
That would be good.
Instead of having to play Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State every year.
Or
that
something
would be funny.
That would be funny. Something along the lines of, how was that for a circus, or something along those lines, since that former coach called him a clown, or all that stuff. It's good to hear. I'm not on Twitter at the moment, so it's good to hear though that Nebraska fans are not on board with what he said. Because again, you can like Tom Allen, you don't have to like Tom Allen. I don't really care. But for him to say that when you have
is idiotic.
When you haven't been good in 6 years, and then to give again,
well, he's not there. That just shows a guy who is. You know what? You don't have to like it. It's just that. See, that's just someone who is just not open to things. They're all Mr. Tough Guy. Oh, just rub some dirt on it.
Right. Yeah. Times have changed a little bit.
Janice checking in from Tampa. No fun at all. Charlie would have fit in the eye of Ian. Yep. She said, well, we talked about that yesterday, Janice, but does point out Indiana is 10-8-3 all time against the Cornhuskers in football. So
really,
there's that. There you go.
Did not know that.
I do not have the book with me. I believe I took that out, or maybe it's in one of these bags to check all that. But Tim checking in, saying former Jets and Bills coach Rex Ryan and golf buddy Tim Mann were the second team eliminated from this season's Amazing Race show. Rex lost 50 pounds to be on the show. I have seen him on some stuff lately. He's got his teeth all whitened up, boy, and he's got a foot fetish. It's a well-known thing. I guarantee you can Google it. It's a well-known situation. Kind of funny. But hey, yeah, coming to you from BB's, man. I know that Chef JD is cooking up some great stuff in the back. Actually, got it cool. I can actually walk around, and we'll throw another camera in here, and I will boom. How about that? I can actually walk around now. I'm mic free, baby.
Look at that. We're grocery shopping with Jim.
This is something I don't take home with me. I don't purchase when I'm here. I buy a lot of meats, but I'm going to hit the bakery today because we've hit a special mark We don't celebrate a lot of stuff here like we should. I didn't celebrate the 500th show. I didn't celebrate the 1000th show. We've already passed both of those hallmarks, and I think we're at like something 1300, something like that now. But Big John, you might want to get on here as well. We hit, I don't know when it was, John. What do you know when it was?
I don't know the exact date, but a few weeks ago, I got a notification that revealed.
And I didn't even know this until yesterday. Someone told me about it.
Our YouTube channel, we were notified that we hit our 1 millionth view on the channel.
Wow. Nice.
1 million views, man. And that is thanks to you guys. That's in a short time. I mean, we just put YouTube on here last year on the show. So thank you guys. 1 million views. That is incredible. So cannot thank you guys enough. But man, looking forward to kicking off another fun. I probably can't get too far away with my microphone. But I'll tell you what I want to do. I'm going to have to take it where I can go in the back with the chef. Next week, Mr. Dustin Schutte. Let me give you that nice view there.
He's making
next
chili.
week. Yes, next week, the chili cook-off. I'm going to set it up with JD. When we go into a break, I'm going to go Chef JD. I'm going to go talk to him. And I'm going to see, all right, do we need to come down the night before, make it, and let it sit and simmer all night?
That sounds good.
And when we come in, I will be kicking your hind end on chili. My chili is the best. Mushrooms with the mushrooms.
And you're going to put them in the chili. That's going to be that's a risky business.
Oh, man, you have no idea what you're talking about. Tim had some jalapeno brats on the grill and sauerkraut last night. That does sound delicious. John C. jumping on with us.
Are you guys sauerkraut people? I'm not a sauerkraut person.
You know what? I'm not. I will eat it now. Oh, there you go. That would be hilarious. Oh, my God. Oh, no.
There you go. That would be good. That would be good.
Or wear one to the handshake.
No.
Do the press conference with the clown nose on.
Because he didn't get insulted by the current staff. It was somebody else. So I think the press conference would be perfect.
It would be awesome. Put the clown nose on and ignore it like nothing else and just simply say, whew. Well, another one. I'm glad we got by that. I wish the Big Ten would schedule us at Nebraska a little more often. Now we're 2-0 since I've been here. And just act like it was nothing and just roll on into something else.
Right. That would be good.
It would be hilarious. Of course, Tom Allen is way above that. We've got to take a break here in a second. Tanis with us. Mike jumping on. Send us some bacon from BB's. Woo, yeah, I'll tell you don't know how good that bacon. I've not taken any home yet. Robert Carter says, send him food now. That's the truth down in Evansville. Appreciate everybody jumping on here early and often now. We're back. We've got lots more, like I said. Big show lined up. Back with it right after this. Brought to you by our friends at BB's Market, home of the best in-house products, meats, custom meats, and you saw that full-size bakery over there, everything they have. It's incredible here. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Morhonda.
That biscuits and gravy's good, isn't it? Chef Jay, he makes some great stuff.
All right.
Oh, it's awesome. Comes Lee. They're going to start doing some culture shows over there. There's Mr. Lee. How you doing, buddy?
Right, you.
My friend Al.
Al. There.
He's a big IU fan, but he does some stuff with IU.
I do this stuff with the.
Well, I was like, what stats are you keeping?
The offensive.
on the kind of backup to the computer.
Yeah.
It used to be touch.
Right.
Every once in a while, the computer.
Oh yeah. That's
That kind of shit. Be there very much longer.
I
hope so.
I do too. They should always have that.
Yeah.
You always gotta have a backup.
Yeah. But anyhow, that's
Oh, did I? Oh yeah. No. Let's see. I gotta make this thing bigger. No, I gotta make that bigger.
Everything's bigger at BB's, right?
There we go. Now, I don't know. Hey, John, talk.
Huh?
All right. I gotta take it. These speakers aren't working. Now, talk now.
Hello, hello. Oh. You hear me, Jim?
Can't hear you on this one.
Oh my gosh. Hey, Alec.
What's up? How's it going?
Oh, just typical Friday stuff.
Why won't that raise up? Talk some more.
Test, test, test. Jim is trying to fix his headphones. BB's
volume is not coming. The volume is not
Did you
coming.
change something? Like while we're in the break, or did something just screw up?
Why? What happened?
Nothing. You said you couldn't hear me.
I can hear you. I can't hear off of that volume.
Okay, I got you.
All of a sudden.
30 seconds, by the way, till we're back. I'll go ahead and bring his...
Still working the volume.
Okay.
I was telling someone.
Indiana basketball, football, and plenty more. Simply go to thehoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant.
Huh?
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios East, as we are at Baby's Market in Bakery, Butcher's Bakeries, and we are each and every Friday. Join us next week. It's going to be a big one. Cannot wait. Chili cook-off time, baby. Dustin's been running his mouth. He doesn't know what chili is. He's about to find out. Alec, you're just going to have to miss out. I cannot imagine. Can you make toast, Alec?
Can I make toast? I can.
Okay. You don't seem like much. You don't seem like much of a cook or a chef or anything. Young guy like yourself.
I stick to a few basics and
peanut butter and jelly. Basics like peanut butter and jelly.
Hey, to each his own, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it, man. Hey, if you're not a good cook, it's probably because you don't have to be. So there's that. There's always that. Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com joining us now. And if you don't have a subscription there, you should, because that Alec and crew will keep you up to date on all things happening IU with recruiting and whatnot. And a lot about to happen in that regard, Alec, as Hoosier Hysteria is upon us 1 week from today. Hoosier Hysteria is that's also the same as Pro Day, the same day.
Yeah, it's earlier in the afternoon. So
you got Pro Day, Hoosier Hysteria. Then, of course, homecoming is Saturday, and some pesky little team from up north coming down, the Michigan Wolverines. So it is going to be a busy weekend, but most importantly for IU sports fans, big basketball recruiting weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as of right now, there's 10 confirmed visitors, whether it's unofficial or unofficially. The lone official visit, prospect-wise, will be 2024 wing out of the Virginia area, Caleb Williams. He'll be on an official visit. Outside of that, you have anywhere from the two commits in the 2023 class from Ja'Kai Newton and Gabe Cups who will be there, are expected to be through this point. And then you have some other key targets, obviously Trent Sicily in the 2025 class, Raleigh Burgess in the 2024 class. You have a couple other 2025s as well. So the lone name that's kind of missing there, Jalen Harrelson, he was expected to be at Hoosier Hysteria for that event, but because he was invited out to Team USA mini basketball camp out in Colorado, that's going on the same weekend. So obviously schedules had to be adjusted, but you have anywhere from commits to high 4-star, 5-star guys, and then you have some really talented 2025s who are kind of up and comers. So they've kind of laid out the land for this recruiting event, and I think having pro day the same day, is just going to magnify this weekend even more for the entire program, but definitely just for the whole athletic department of Indiana, obviously coinciding with homecoming.
I'm going to get this out. I'm going to get this out of the way real quick. Is Flory Badunga? I can't remember. Is he scheduled on that?
Yeah. Yes, he is.
IU fans, just don't get your hopes up. Just kind of put him off to the side into your hopes and your thoughts, and focus on the other guys. Dustin, no, please continue.
Oh, I was just going to say, what kind of, this is an awesome opportunity, I think, for a lot of the recruits to come in and see what it's all about, right? Like, this is the time where you see what Hoosier Hysteria is all about. You've mentioned before, people, when recruits come on campus, a lot of people around campus know exactly who they are. This is an awesome opportunity for a lot of recruits, but also there's some guys I think coming during an off football weekend. It's interesting to me the compare and contrast. How does this team prioritize, this coaching staff prioritize who they want to be on campus, maybe for Hoosier Hysteria, and maybe some of the guys they want to have a little bit more of a personal or intimate type of visit with?
Yeah. There's a reason why the top prospects in the class aren't going to be coming that weekend. Not to say that a guy like Raleigh Burgess is not a top prospect, but when you look at Liam McNeely, Derek Queen, who were on campus last week, and Jaden Mustafa, another top 50 guy who's going to be taking an official visit this weekend, you want to be able to spend a lot more time with those guys, guys who aren't from the Midwest, guys who can't easily just make a weekend visit to Indiana whenever they want. So when you look at that, that's why you kind of spread those out. You want to make sure that weekend is solely focused on them. A lot of these guys who will be here for an unofficial visit are guys in the Midwest, guys who do plan on having other visits, either other visits scheduled already or they've already been on campus a few different times. So this is just an other kind of moment to kind of cement in that recruitment. A guy like Caleb Williams, who is that lone official visit, obviously he has the whole weekend. So this is just kind of kicking things off for him. Everyone else will be gone, after Friday night, if not early Saturday morning. So you look at then the rest of that weekend is spent solely on a guy like Caleb Williams. But that's why you spread that out, because you want those two top of the line prospects to be the only people you're really focused on. And they've been able to do that. They tend to pair up if guys are coming on visits at the same time. They tend to pair those up very well, I think, personality-wise with those recruits. Obviously, Liam McNeely and Derek Queen are teammates right now, so that was a little bit easier to get those guys to come at the same time, and they did want to come at the same time. But moving forward, I think, a guy like Jaden Mustafa this weekend, definitely a very, very important visit. And then moving into Caleb Williams, that official visit, a guy who's extremely high on Indiana through this point, but really hasn't been talked about a whole lot, just because he's not one of those borderline 5-star guys. He's kind of a lower end 4-star, but really starting to emerge at the end of this summer for team takeover on the AAU circuit, and should be a guy to continue to watch for Indiana as he kind of projects to be a mid to high level 4-star guy kind of moving forward once his class is obviously officially ready to the college decisions.
Hoosier Hysteria, Alec, is a gigantic showcasing time for Indiana. The second round for Mike Woodson. Last year, they did it right, I have to say. They hit a home run with Hoosier Hysteria, bringing in Isaiah Thomas, having the coaches in the candy stripes. It just all worked right. And so I think that this year will probably be better, but don't know what to expect quite yet. But I'm sure it's going to be fun. It's a big weekend, like I said, with all that's going on with Pro Day and Hoosier Hysteria, homecoming. Michigan's in town. It's just a lot. Jim Harbaugh's in town. So there's a lot going on in Bloomington, Indiana this weekend.
Yeah, and you talked about kind of instilling that tradition back again with the candy stripes last year and Mike Woodson's first Hoosier Hysteria. Now this year, modernizing it a little bit with bringing in rapper G Herbo and then also having Pro Day the same day. So they're really trying to expand on what this event is, because this, as much as this is to kind of see the players the first time, there's nothing that the fans really are that engaged in. Obviously, last year they ended up not even scrimmaging because they had some injuries. They're not going to go 100% in any of these like skills events that they do at every Hoosier Hysteria. But let's not really get this twisted. This is a huge, and it should be a huge recruiting weekend every single season. And Indiana just really has fallen behind, I would say, the times when it comes to modernizing this type of an event. You look across the country, and Kansas has probably done the best with this over the last few years, bringing in tons of high-profile names, whether it be Snoop Dogg, whether this year they're bringing in Shaq, obviously to unveil the banner that they have. But North Carolina's always brought in some sort of music star, and Duke has done the same at times as well. So you look around the country, you need to modernize that for 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. And this is for them, and the fact that Indiana did that so quickly and modernized it so quickly in Mike Woodson's second year, I think is definitely something to continue to watch as they use this weekend as an even bigger recruiting weekend than Indiana has in the past, where I think they've kind of lost a little bit of steam in recruitments because they have not been able to kind of hit the home run that they need to at this type of an event.
I have a question about G Herbo. Should Indiana have gotten a bigger name, or does that just mean I am completely out of the loop?
I don't think the name matters the first time that they do this, right? I think they
I disagree, man. If you're gonna do it, do it. I mean, don't piddle fart around. I mean, these guys are Snoop bringing in Snoop Dogg. That's Snoop Dogg, man. That ain't G. I mean, I'm not trying to knock it, but if you're gonna do it is my mantra on that. And Woody knows a bunch of these NBA guys who are best friends. You could have, man. Who knows? We could have had Snoop-a-Loop brought his green hat. Could have brought the green hat, the whole deal.
What we're learning is Jim wanted Snoop Dogg.
Yes,
and that would have been awesome. To him. You know what? He's got a wine for sale in one of the Krogers or all the Krogers in Bloomington, because he gave Bloomington Kroger a shout out last year on Twitter. It was hilarious for what Crimes 19 wine that he sells. But yeah, he gave the Bloomington Kroger a shout out last year. It was and he was wearing that jacket, the Indiana jacket with the 5 national champion banners on the back that I've never seen anywhere. It's an Adidas jacket. I've never seen it anywhere.
Yeah, something tells me that one's not for sale.
I'm going to think that may be a custom made. I think my man Lee may be able to get one of those. Statistician for the football program, by the way. Big Al's here. He had a plate of biscuits and gravy. That looks good. I haven't been able to eat yet because I've been taking care of you guys. But
to get back to that, I'll say, as long as you take some sort of step forward to modernize it, and again, that you're not, no one goes out and gets the biggest name the first time that they do this. I think they need to kind of set some sort of groundwork for how they're going to do it, and then be able to expand on that next year.
The reason I asked that question, though, is because I don't know his name. And if I don't know his name, the IU fan base,
but
probably not lesser. But
this isn't.
And I know it's not for them. It's for the kids. But I'm still thinking there's a way that they could have mixed it and still hit a home run.
I think that the biggest thing, as long as they make tiny steps to modernize it each and every year, that's the only thing that should matter right now. And I think Mike Woodson and that entire staff, all those assistants know what they have to do. And look, all this could be for complete waste, right? I mean, Indiana, as much as we've talked about how well they've done getting guys on campus, they've struggled to close. So they need to kind of get back to the groundwork here in the fall and land some commitments for the 2024 class. They got off to such a great start with the 2023 class and really leveled off, missing on every single one of their top targets. So these events are great, but you need to capitalize on them. And that's what the staff is obviously looking to do. And at the end of the day, as long as they do that, I don't think it really matters who the singer is or who the rapper is or what event they have. Roping in pro day, roping in some sort of music act, I think is going to get kids on campus a lot easier than it is any other recruiting pitch.
And on top of that, I could offer one suggestion: less band before the games and more DJ music.
I don't know. I don't think that makes a difference, personally.
Oh, it does for me, because it drives me insane, because you don't sit there and listen to it every daggone
that's true.
time.
What I was going to ask, Alec, was is you've mentioned some of the big-time programs that are doing this. Are there a lot in the Big Ten? Because I don't maybe I'm just not following it as closely as I used to, but are there a lot of programs in the Big Ten that are going this route? Because I can't think of any off the top of my head, but maybe I'm just out of the loop. So it feels like even though Indiana maybe has fallen behind some of the traditional powers and some of the big names that are doing it, they might be one of the front runners in the Big Ten.
Yeah, that part's accurate, but when, especially for Indiana, when you're trying to bring in more national type guys, you need to be able to obviously get those guys on campus, and not to say that some sort of music act is going to intrigue them a little bit more, but it's going to make the event a little bit more exciting for any of these guys. But yeah, when it comes to the Big Ten, right, I think that's the thing. You're trying to compare Indiana to the rest of the conference, and then on the other hand, compare Indiana to the traditional blue bloods, right, that Indiana is trying to get back up to. So I think there's definitely two ways to think about it. I think in years past, right, if this Indiana coaching staff was with this program a couple of years ago, right, I don't think there would have been a huge issue, because of the guys that they were going after a few years ago were the same guys that every Big Ten program was going after. But now you look at it, and realistically, there's not a lot of, outside of maybe the Gabe Cups and some other local guys, obviously in the 2024-2025 class coming up. There's not a lot of Midwestern guys, especially in Indiana or especially in Ohio, outside of a few, that every single Big Ten program is going after. So that's why when I talk about recruiting now, it's Indiana's made that jump to say, hey, we're going to go 99% of our effort nationally and focus the other 1%, maybe not as heavily, but do that in the Midwest here and where all the other Big Ten programs are. So when it comes to how they rank in the Big Ten, yes, agreed with you that they are probably a step ahead, just when it comes to their NIL program as well. But when you look nationally, that's where I think they're still trying to get to, and they're still a couple steps behind, but they're doing all the right things to get to that point.
One other question from Tim: can IU get this 2025 kid from Kentucky's backyard, EJ Walker, from Kentucky? He's coming to an IU visit next week. This is, by my count, like the sixth kid from the state of Kentucky that this staff has shown interest in. That is just beyond means a record.
Yeah, I mean, again, they're not shying away from the top players in the Midwest. They're not shying away from the top players in the country, and EJ Walker's definitely going to be a name to watch. He's extremely high on Indiana up to this point. Brian Walsh was down to visit him last week as well at an open gym. And they've been in communication probably for the last month and a half here, setting up some times to visit. So he's a guy that likes Indiana, likes the tradition there, likes what Indiana has to offer with this coaching staff. But yeah, when you look at Kentucky as a whole, right? I mean, I think it's all up to Mike Woodson who he wants to go after, and he's obviously shown he wants to go after a lot of the top talent in the country. So he really doesn't care where they're from. If they can play and if they can score and defend, he's going to want them, on his roster. And it just happens to be that the past couple classes here for the state of Kentucky have been a little bit more talented than maybe years past when it comes to in-state talent there. So, it'll be interesting to watch what happens there. Not sure, what's going to happen in that recruitment, as he's just a 2025 kid, and there's a lot of time to go before a lot of other programs really jump in. But he's definitely going to be involved with EJ Walker moving forward.
Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Make sure you go there and be a subscriber. It's only $8 a month, and you can get complete coverage on IU news and recruiting on all things, as well as what's coming up next. And Alec, I think that there was something I was going to mention, but I've already forgot because my mind slips away. Daggone it. But what's up next for you?
Yeah, obviously the biggest thing this weekend, Jaden Mustaf, top 50 2024 guard, is going to be on his official visit. We had the visits of Liam McNeely and Derek Queen last weekend. By all accounts, both went really well. I think Indiana's still trailing in the Derek Queen recruitment. I think they're going to have to do a lot to push through that one. It'll be interesting to see what happens if he decides to stay in the 2024 class or move up to 2023. I think if he moves to 23, Indiana may have a better line in that recruitment than Maryland would, just with all those available minutes and basically coming in to take over a lot of production from Race Thompson and Trace Jackson Davis. So I think that may be a better moment for Indiana if he decides to do that when it comes to Liam McNeely. I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to potentially Indiana and Texas. We'll obviously see what happens moving forward. Has no other official visits scheduled at the moment, but Texas will definitely get one. Stanford, he's talked about as well. There'll probably be a few other, potentially Texas Tech, LSU, some of those other programs down in the SEC that are definitely heavily involved with him. But Indiana has done everything in that visit to hit home with both players and then the parents as well. So again, Indiana needs to continue to get down and dirty in these recruitments, and this is one with Liam McNeely that I think up to this point they're definitely out in front of the rest of the pack with Texas, and it looks like it could be a two-man race moving forward between those two.
Good news for Hoosier fans. Any word on reclassification on Derek Queen?
Not at the moment. It's still kind of whispers in the background. It's kind of was brought up in the June-July timeframe. A decision was supposed to be made sometime before the season starts, the high school season. We'll see if that happens. Wouldn't shock me to see it happen closer to the end of the high school season, just because I think at this point there's going to be other programs obviously to jump in, but there seem to be the strong ties with Indiana and Maryland that I feel like at this moment any team that jumps in is going to be trailing the pack significantly because these Montverde kids really do struggle to get out to official visits once their season starts. And the fact that Indiana already has secured one, Maryland will secure one at the end of October. There's not a lot of time for a true official visit to happen once their basketball season starts.
Make sure you check out Alec's Friday recruiting notebook at thehoosier.com, where you can do that. Alec, I can't thank you enough.
Appreciate it, guys.
You bet. Make sure you give him a follow at Al Lasley from thehoosier.com. We're back with Zach Osterman from the Indy Star, coming to you from here at BB's Market, where we are each and every Friday. Brought to you by Go Team. When you're on the go, you need Go Team. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
The sun is out.
I assume Jim can't hear me anymore.
I think he can hear us.
All right. Well, I'll text him then because I need his prediction. So I will. I'll just shoot him a text.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Alec.
All right. See you guys.
You got to be an idiot to say something like that. I mean, you just got to be an idiot because you're on radio. I'm like, it's not like that thing ain't going around the world instantly in today's culture.
Yeah, how we doing?
Good. Thanks for adjusting your schedule a little bit for us today.
Yeah, no problem.
I hate these remotes. I hate that he gets up right when we break.
Holy shit. I can move this back. We need to get a TV up here next. John, how much time?
Let me look real quick. You got about a minute 40. Sounds like he's going through the hurricane. Oh my gosh. What are the odds? His audio just disconnected, Dustin.
I'd say pretty good.
He just muted himself somehow. I don't know if he did that from his. We need to put him on a leash. If he comes back and doesn't realize that we're back, I'll get us started. I know we're going to talk about it anyway, so. Jim, if you can hear me, we've got about 30 seconds. I'll go ahead and bring the commercial back in.
Right now, it's the Certified Dream Deal Sales Event. Get 0.99% APR financing for well-qualified buyers on all.
Hey, Jim, you need to unmute your mic. I don't know if you know, but it's muted on StreamYard.
Financing deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Friday. We're live from BB's Market here in Bloomington. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joins us now. Zach, how are you, brother?
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing well. Morning soccer on? Is there some soccer on?
No, not on a Friday.
Nope, not on Friday.
They do. It'll be mornings on the weekends, but I mean, I'm sure there's probably some on somewhere. You know, like even during lockdown, I was watching the Russian league. So
I was gonna say, how many times does it cause you to have to get up at like 5 a.m. to watch a match that you really want to watch on a weekend?
It's not. The earliest games will start here at 7:30 because we're 5 hours behind. There was a time when it was a lot less accessible on, person-to-person television. When I was in high school, I'd have to get up around like 6:30 to be ready to go down to the pub to watch the game if it was a 7:30 kickoff. But now, I can just roll over and turn the TV on. And there it is. So it's not as bad as it used to be.
Indiana traveling to Lincoln, Nebraska this weekend for a grand opportunity to get to 4-1, which at the beginning of the season, if you asked about anybody if you would take 4-1 after the first 5 games for this football team, I don't think anyone that would not have just jumped all over that. And they have a great opportunity to make that happen. Of course, you have a Nebraska team that is also hungry for a win. They're in a little bit of turmoil with the firing of the coach. But Indiana, they have certain opportunities to win games in the Big Ten. This is definitely one of those opportunities that they can't let pass by, basically.
Yeah, I know. I think that's fair. Nebraska is – I get what Nebraska is in theory, what Nebraska is on paper, the name on the front of the jersey. And listen, it'll be a sellout. It's Memorial Stadium. It's a night game. That's a tough environment. On the other hand, there is the reality of Nebraska, which is, number one, this team isn't very good. Now, are they better than Indiana? They might be. But it's still not a very good football team. It has a lot of weaknesses and flaws. Number two, teams like this usually struggle as seasons go along just to kind of stay engaged when you know that ultimately you're just waiting for December. You're waiting to find out what happens with the coaching search, waiting to find out if you want to transfer, if you are going to connect with the new coach, whatever. And I'm not saying guys quit, but I use this comparison a lot, and it's not apples to apples, obviously, but it's the same idea. I played on 2 really bad football teams in high school. We went 0-10 both seasons. You can tell yourself you're playing hard. You can tell yourself, I'm into it, I'm engaged, I'm fighting, but there gets a point where it's sort of like, well, what am I fighting for? To finish 1-9 or 2-8? If Nebraska loses this game, there's a very real chance they will finish this season with double-digit losses for the first time in program history. And I understand why you would want to avoid being a part of that, but that's not usually enough motivation to get 85 guys to pull as hard as they possibly can in the same direction for 4 quarters. Indiana's got that motivation. And Indiana's also got on paper anyway some things that they do, let's say, relatively well, things that they want to do well, things that they want, to underpin their success that Nebraska really struggles with, namely defending the pass in basically any measure, not just, yards, but points, turnovers created, sacks, everything. This is just the kind of game. I'm not saying it's a must-win for Indiana, but it's, if Indiana's going to go to a bowl, it's pretty close to it. And that's a hard thing to say about going to Nebraska. And it's a sellout, like I said, and they're coming off a bye week and all those kinds of things. But if you're Indiana, you need to be prepared for a tough environment. You need to be prepared for Nebraska to score on their first drive. They've had 2 weeks to get ready for it. It's going to happen. But if you're Indiana, there's a path to you being up 24-10 in this game at halftime, and you need to make sure you walk that path.
Yeah, because that crowd also knows that this is an opportunity for Nebraska, so they're going to be as raucous as they can. But man, if Indiana can do that, well, that would take the crowd out, and we're talking the crowd that's probably going to be close to. Well, it will be officially a sellout, but close to 80,000, whatever it holds there in Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that's a valid part of it too. That the crowd will be just like the players. It's homecoming; they'll be cranked up for it for a while. But if Indiana can score on its first 3 drives, if it's 17-7 early in the second quarter, then that crowd will be thinking the same thing. They'll be thinking, we saw this against Georgia Southern, we saw this against Northwestern. None of these guys are getting retained, although I'm sure 1 or 2 of them. Well, Mickey Joseph may well get retained. He's a very good coach. But, everybody there is going to know, everybody there in Nebraska red is going to know that ultimately the fun starts when the coaching change happens, when the hire happens. And everything here is kind of just preamble to that. There's no path for Nebraska to even be 5-7 this year, in all likelihood. Maybe they do it. I mean, I shouldn't be so harsh. Maybe they do it. But if, for example, you look at Bill Connolly's numbers because Bill's formulas build out. I'm just looking them up while we talk. Bill's formulas build out, a spread for each game, and it should be said, Nebraska is about a 5 or 6 point favorite according to his numbers in this game. So I'm not trying to make this out like it's an automatic for Indiana. It's not. But if you look at Nebraska's schedule from here, they are an underdog in every single game after this one, according to Connolly's formulas. And the only teams against whom they're not at least an 8-point underdog are at Rutgers and Illinois. So basically you're talking about 3 coin flip games that Nebraska's got. And if they win all 3 of them, they still only go 4-8. And when the coaching change has already happened, and when you know that like the serious business isn't coming until the end of the year, typically teams like that are easy to demoralize. It's easy to get the wind out of their sails. And that's what's on Indiana this weekend. They've had too many of these slow starts. Tom Allen's acknowledged it. Walt Bell's acknowledged it. This is the weekend to fix that. If you punch Nebraska in the mouth early, that's how you get it out of them, because teams like this don't tend to have a lot of that fight left in them. And I'm not trying to make Nebraska sound soft. Like, it's not these kids' fault. It's not like the way that they wound up where they wound up. But we've all seen this. Teams like this don't just, suddenly discover a spine they didn't have. That's not the way it works. And if they did, frankly, it would have been against an Oklahoma. Not necessarily they would have beaten Oklahoma, but that they wouldn't have rolled over the way they did against Oklahoma. It would have happened by now. So if you're Indiana, you have got to go kind of put them in a hole early and make them feel like this one's just not worth fighting.
Zach, one of the things that intrigues me about this game, and you talked about getting off to a fast start, is that Nebraska's defense ranks last in the Big Ten in every statistical category on run defense, total defense, pass, scoring. I think there's going to be, and we've talked about how bad Indiana's offensive line is, but I think because of Nebraska's deficiencies on defense, it's going to open up some things a little bit where they can maybe be a little bit more balanced. Do you think that helps Indiana get off to a little bit of a hotter start, because maybe they don't have to wait till halftime to make some of those adjustments? They'll have a little bit more available in the playbook because of Nebraska's poor defensive play?
I mean, maybe to some extent, sure. I think, what I would say is, frankly, well, first of all, I think there will be some adjustments. Like, I would be kind of surprised if we don't see a couple new faces in the offensive line, maybe just one. It'll depend, obviously, on health a little bit, too. People don't want to hear that. But, Matt Bedford's out for the year. Zach Carpenter's been out with a hand injury. If I'm Indiana, frankly, especially when you consider Nebraska is really bad against the pass. Like, they only have 2 interceptions. I'm reading this right now out of my story. They only have 2 interceptions in 4 games. They only have 4 sacks in 4 games. I think 3 teams have gone for 2 teams, because Oklahoma basically just ran the ball. 2 teams have gone over 300 against them. Georgia Southern threw for 409. If you look at, they're allowing more than 40 yards per drive. They're allowing 2.8 points per drive, which if you consider that there's about 12 to 14 drives a game, that's like 35 to 40 points, if I'm doing my quick math right. Nebraska's really bad against the pass. And it's not like they're bad in some areas, but they can still create pressure. Like, no, they don't do that either. Like, they don't. And I'm looking for their havoc rate while we're talking, but like they do not do anything well against the pass. They just don't. And so I think if you're Indiana, frankly, I think you just need to do what you do well. And in this game, that is probably throw the ball all over the place. Nebraska is 94th or worse in blitz down success rate, blitz down big play rate, blitz down sack rate, standard down sack rate, and perhaps like most damning, Nebraska is 127th in the country in passing down sack rate. So in downs that should be passing down, Nebraska Nebraska still is not creating any pressure. Like if this is the game where Indiana needs to find that efficiency passing the football. And I know that Indiana struggled. I know Indiana's offensive line has been incredibly imperfect this season. And it will help if they get Zach Carpenter. I think Caleb Murphy is deputized well, but it will help if they get Zach Carpenter healthy. He's a starter for a reason. But, like, Nebraska's really bad defending the pass. And I don't think that means you just only pass. But Nebraska cannot defend the pass. They just can't do it.
Well, certainly.
This needs to be a game where Indiana finds that rhythm, that consistency very early. It can't be a game where Connor Bazelak throws it 65 times and completes 51% of his passes. Like, there needs to be efficiency there. And if there is, then I think there's going to be explosiveness, and that's how I think Indiana can win this game.
I agree with you. I would definitely take IU in the points if I were betting. Zach Osterman from Indy Star. Can't thank you enough, brother, as always.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You bet. You have a great day, Zach Osterman from Indy Star. Make sure you give him a follow and keep local papers alive. Be a subscriber to the Indy Star. I am. We've got much more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Steve Marcus Marik, is going to join us from inside Nebraska to give us the look from the other side of the coin. We're brought to you, of course, by Barber Pop Real Estate Services down in southern Indiana. If you're in the Louisville, Floyd, Clark, Harrison, southern Scott County areas, you need Barber Pop Real Estate Services. They have served that area for 3 decades and will get you into the home you want. Reach out to Barbara at barberpop.com or Matt Lincoln, Matt at barberpop.com. We're back with Steve Marik right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore.
I have not gotten any food delivered to me today. What's going on? I'm used to having samples, man. By God, next week, we're going to have all this stuff ready to go. Tino's on from Arizona. At least you didn't have to come from Arizona, Al. Where's your place in Florida? Oh, so what's it like right now?
We didn't get hit that hard. My development was like 2 big trees, but other than that, so I can't talk to anybody.
I tried to call Charlie last night.
There's no power, so nobody's using their cell phones or anything.
Right, you got to save it.
I can't get on the island over there. Because the grid is not.
I saw some of those roads. It was mind-boggling. Mind-boggling.
That's my favorite word that you use, Jim.
Mind-boggling?
Mm-hmm. It's like your trademark.
Do I say it a lot?
You do.
That's
it's not
good.
like you don't oversay it, but you say it enough to where I associate it with you.
That's because I'm mind-boggling in many different bad ways, probably. Steve Marik, where are you, bro?
I just sent him a follow-up just to let him know, hey, we're ready for you.
Yeah, I sent one to in his Twitter account. Nebraska definitely looks at this as a game they have to win.
It means both teams think the same or thinking the same thing.
If Indiana doesn't think that, there's not paying attention. I need some coffee. Damn. Oh yeah, and we need to talk about this Northwestern Stadium. How about that?
I know that looks really cool.
It looks like a soccer stadium.
I'd like to visit Ryan Field before it gets torn down, though. Never been.
Well, I haven't either, but I don't think you're missing much.
It's like Mitchell talked about last night. It's unique. All right, here we go.
Oh, shit.
It's Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
Can I get a cup of coffee?
Or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Friday. It's time for the weekend, man, and it's going to be a good-looking one. It is game weekend, of course, joined now by Steve Marik from Inside Nebraska, Rivals from Rivals.com. Steve, how are you, brother?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us. Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com with us as well. This is the Indiana-Nebraska game is not one that most people are going to look at as the must-see TV, but fans on both sides, this is a game that both programs have to be looking at as a game that they have to win.
Yeah, it just on our end from Nebraska's side of things, this is a get-right game, at least in my opinion. Obviously, things have not gone the way the Huskers have wanted to start the season, and they're coming off a bye week. They have the interim defensive coordinator in place. They have, obviously, Mickey Joseph as the interim head coach, and they're just looking for life, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And just doing a little research and watching Indiana's games, you guys have an offense that is capable of putting up points, not always as consistent doing it, but so it's just going to be I think it's going to be an entertaining game. It's going to be a good, hard-fought game. I believe in a lot of the fans here in Huskerland just want to see the defense kind of just show some life, show something against Connor Bazelak and Sean Shivers and Cam Camper, who a really good receiver that I like out of the junior college ranks. So, yeah, I mean it's going to be a really entertaining game, and we'll see how it goes.
First off, how you doing, Steve? We
Hey,
used to
Dustin,
work together Saturday.
I haven't talked to you in a while.
I know it's
I didn't
going
know
well.
this.
Yeah,
I love it's like the love connection here at Indiana Sports Beat. I always love bringing people together.
We had a few chats, but this is our first time talking face to face, virtually face to face.
This is as close as it gets in this day and age. This is face to face.
One thing I wanted to get your opinion on, because we talked about this yesterday and briefly, what was kind of the fan reaction to the comments about Tom Allen, being a clown? I don't know if you heard this, but
I don't know if you heard this.
The biggest clown in college football. It seems like to me, again, I'm not a guy. If you don't like Tom Allen, that's fine. I don't care. Whatever. But it seems like Nebraska had some things that would work in its favor. Having an extra week to prepare for Indiana, you get to play loose. There's really nothing to lose. And then all of a sudden you have a former staff member say something like that that's going to get back into the Indiana locker room. I mean, what was the perception, or how was that received among the fan base? Was there some agreement there, or was it more, why are you saying this? We've got to win this game. Why give them any sort of fuel heading into this contest?
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of both, honestly. Yeah, I mean that guy, he was honestly, I don't know what the benefit is of having him come on. I mean, he's not on the staff anymore. He was on Bo Pelini's staff as the defensive line coach. But,
because he was going to say something like that and get them.
Yeah, probably. Attention. Yeah, he's an outspoken guy, kind of a troubled past, had some stuff in the past that's not great. So it's just not a great look. But, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of maybe like half the fan base is on his side, and just because it's like and I mean that just because it's like an opponent. Sure. We don't want to say good things about Indiana and its head coach and things like that. There was also a lot of fans in the fan base that are like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you doing this for? It's not a good look. So I think it was pretty right, left, and things like that. So yeah, I mean, in my personal opinion, I didn't care for the comments, but like, why even have that guy on? But that's just me, and it is what it is, and it happened. And Indiana and Nebraska isn't a rivalry, but boy, there's been some edge to this game, right? I mean, go back to 2019, and and the boos with, Memorial Stadium, thinking Indiana's players were faking the injuries, and that's always a hard.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's always a hard thing to kind of.
Oh, and Indiana was already pissed off at the comments Scott Frost had made.
That was on top of what was already like under the surface, waiting to explode. So,
well, it was big that I'm no one, and in the post-game presser of that game, Tom Allen was just fired up after they won, and he's at the podium, and you could tell he didn't say what he wanted to say, but he hit that podium hard. And I remember ESPN Sports Center had reached out to me to use my clip for Sports Center. I didn't get the message in time, unfortunately, but that's how big that thing was. Sports Center they wanted that clip, man. It was emotion, and I'm sure there's some hangover there. But I wonder, does that show a culture of disrespect that had been there under Scott Frost and that leadership?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to get into that, because I don't really know. I wasn't covering the team during that time, but there was a lot of things that went on in Scott Frost's tenure here that a lot of people probably don't like, and for good reason. There's a lot of stories coming out right now just after the fact that he's gone, and things kind of coming to light about how he ran the program and the things that may not have been the most professional. But that's neither here nor there. It's done. It's over with. Everybody's kind of just wanting to support this team and see what they do against Indiana here, because honestly, right now, I think Nebraska fans have a lot to look forward to with the way things are going in college football. The new college football world. I don't even know if there's going to be divisions in 2 seasons now, and Nebraska has a very expensive, very unique training facility that's being built right now, right outside Memorial Stadium. They have a great NIL foundation, just another organization popped up in Omaha, which is looking to do some really, really good things for Nebraska's student athletes. And it has the backing of athletic director Trev Alberts too. So that's really cool. And nowadays with the coach search, how you can flip a roster almost immediately in an off season with the transfer portal. There's a lot of good things going on at Nebraska right now. So I think people around here especially are really looking forward instead of back. And in my opinion, that's a good way to do it.
Absolutely. It's always a good way. It is a fantastic environment there. I know that they're at roughly 385 sellouts now, consecutive.
Yeah. They just, and that was kind of
did they get the sellout? I was going to say,
that was kind of a talking point this week is would Indiana be a sellout, and they did get there. So it's going to be a week by week discussion, according to Trev Alberts, the athletic director. So
what that means is there's going to have to be some businesses ponying up money probably for the rest of the year, possibly, except for the major games.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of help continuing this sellout streak for sure. Looking into the future with Nebraska football, there's talks about just doing some work on Memorial Stadium and maybe lowering the capacity. That's being close to being passed here soon. So keep an eye out on that. And it's just another thing.
They really want to keep that streak alive, huh?
It's important to a lot of people here in the state for sure.
So what are you expecting? No, I'm sorry. So what are you expecting in the game? I look at it. I try to be as objective as heck. This one's a tough one to pick because both teams have gigantic flaws that favor the other team. I can't imagine Indiana's defense will be as bad as it was against Cincinnati. It seemed like an anomaly. Their strongest unit was the secondary, which that doesn't help them against Nebraska. Their biggest problem was stopping the run, and they had a problem stopping the run in the second half against Western Kentucky. Held them to 33 yards first half, 130 in the second half. And Nebraska has a solid running core. Indiana has to have worked on that, and I think that just because it'll take Nebraska longer to score. Indiana's just a quicker firing team. I think Indiana, especially, I'll take those points all day long. But I think Indiana will end up getting the win just because of the pace offense, and they're going to run more plays, basically.
Yeah, you guys run a lot of plays. That is for sure. It's a fast tempo offense. Yeah, with kind of a gunslinger back there with Connor Bazelak. But yeah, I mean, with this game here at Inside Nebraska with my colleagues, we kind of did some content on what we predict with the team with this game yesterday, and I picked Indiana to win. Have it written down right here, 38-34. I think it's going to be a tight one-score game. And I'm at the point right now, and I'm not alone here at Nebraska, that Nebraska, this football team, needs to show the fan base something. And until they do that, I'm not going to pick them to win a football game. They need to show some life. It's been that bad on the defensive side of the ball. They are near the bottom in the country in rushing yards allowed, rushing yards per carry. It's just been so bad. I mean, it obviously led to the defensive coordinator Eric Shenander losing his job and just having to move around some pieces on the staff to figure this thing out. But Bill Busch comes in as the interim defensive coordinator. He's a longtime coach, has a lot of experience coaching, but he hasn't been a defensive coordinator in a long time. I think it was maybe he was a co-defensive coordinator at Rutgers in around 2017, 2016, sometime around there. And then before that at Utah State, but that was like 2009. That was like when I was graduating high school. So the game has obviously changed. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how much difference, how much of an impact Bill Busch, the insertion of Bill Busch as D coordinator is going to make, because we think it's going to be a lot of the same players out there on defense for Nebraska. So I don't know. I just think, with the way I think Nebraska's offense can keep the Huskers in this with Casey Thompson at quarterback. I know Indiana's pass defense has really struggled for sure, but in order for Casey Thompson to find his talented guys like Trey Palmer, Marcus Washington, Travis Vokalek down the field, he needs to stay upright. And for that to happen, he needs to be protected. And Nebraska's offensive line has been very bad protecting Thompson this year. I think they've allowed 11 sacks, which is worse than the Big Ten, pretty far down in the country. And I know just from watching Indiana's games, I really like Cam Jones coming after the quarterback. I really like Dasan McCullough, the true freshman, 6'5", 230 pounds, one of the, if not the best rated recruit in Indiana football history. I really like to look at that guy.
And he's showing it, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so, there's a lot of questions on Nebraska's offensive line right now. They have their starting left tackle, Teddy Prohaska, out for the season with an injury. Kevin Williams Jr., a transfer he's from Omaha, and he's a kind of a utility lineman. He can play guard and tackle. He's a transfer from Northern Colorado. He's out with a high ankle sprain, and that's going to take a long time for him to get back. So Nebraska's just not very good on the edges at the tackle, with Bryce Benhart at right tackle and Turner Corcoran at left tackle. So I don't know. I think Indiana's going to see what other defenses have done to Nebraska's offensive line in the past, especially Oklahoma, and they're going to be like, hey, why can't we do that? And I think they could probably get there too. They can get home on Casey Thompson and make him uncomfortable, because as we saw against Oklahoma, if you get to Casey Thompson and you lay some hits on him, he gets uncomfortable, and he's not the same quarterback if he's just sitting back there and with time and he's able to pick a defense apart. He's really good at that, but if he has some pressure in his face, he's not as good. But a lot of quarterbacks aren't when that happens. So, I just think that Indiana has – I don't know. I just want to see something from Nebraska is what I'm trying to say. They haven't shown anything for the past 3 weeks, and an upset loss to Georgia Southern, and then just a complete blowout where I think some players really had a lack of effort on some plays against Oklahoma when it was starting to get bad, and you never want to see lack of effort just kind of stop playing during the game. And I think there were some hints of that against the Sooners. So just show us something. I think that's where Husker fans are at right now with the defense. Show us something. But until they do, I'm not going to pick them. I think Indiana's going to get out of here with a tight win.
Well, it should be, I don't know if I want to call it an entertaining game, Steve, but it's going to be an interesting game no matter what. It could be a game that ends up over 60 under 60. I don't know. I really don't. How it's going to. I do think Indiana will come out with a win as well, like you think. I think it's going to be close, but it's not a game where they can make mistakes. It's not a game where they have to score on offense. They can't. They've got to stop kicking field goals and start scoring touchdowns. That's been an issue for them in the red zone. So we'll see if they get that done. Steve, I can't thank you enough, man. I look forward to talking to you again as the season progresses.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on, Jim. And Dustin, it was nice to finally get to see you.
Yeah, you as well. We'll keep in touch, man.
We'll do
Absolutely.
it again. Don't worry.
For sure. Thank you, guys.
Steve Marik from inside Nebraska. Rivals for Nebraska. If you're a fan or not, go there. Check that out. You know what's coming up next? It's time for the Red Zone, baby. And look what just happened to arrive. Oh, I'm sorry, Dustin. Can you see that?
Are those nachos?
Yeah, that's what you call brisket nachos. Can you smell it?
I hope
Can you smell what the brisket is cooking?
I hope somebody comes by and slaps it out of your hand.
Well, they better not. We've got lots more coming up. Jeffrey the Greek with us for sure. Not sure about Whip Mitchell. Don't know if he's in Charleston, South Carolina, where they're getting battered by Hurricane Ian. So we'll see if he's going to join us today or not. We'll find out. Regardless, we're back with more here, live from BB's, brought to you by our good friends at Metalworks Brewing Company. Metalworks has a passion for great beer, Metalworks art, and being a part of the community. You can check them out right off the square in Bloomington, catty corner to Cabello's. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio and the Red Zone right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Boyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Hey, this is Jim.
Brisket not.
Morning, Jeff.
Hey, how we doing?
Good. Also, I think Jim can still hear me. No Mitchell, more than likely. I think he said his power is out or flickering on and off, so he's dealing with the hurricane.
Man, I wanted to get some hurricane.
We should have had DJ on, but I bet his power. I'm surprised he's alive.
He kept. Why? He wasn't even in the middle of it, was he?
He's in Fort Myers.
Oh, he is? He may be underwater then.
Well, I asked him yesterday if he was good, and he said he was, but, there was a bunch of destruction, so.
Oh, I got to get a napkin. This ain't going to work.
Eating on
Look at that. That's brisket just dangling.
Oh, nice.
That's brisket just dangling, covered in some good.
I might make some nachos this weekend. That looks good. Ooh. I mean, not when Jim's eating it, but typically it looks good.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Man. How are you feeling about Iowa this week, Jeff? Y'all got Michigan this week?
Huh?
I gained a little confidence in the Hawks as the week's gone on.
Yeah. Yeah, that game, it scares me because Iowa, it's like there was a stat that somebody pulled up on Twitter the other day, how at least once a year, a team that absolutely has no business losing to Iowa loses to Iowa. And this
I don't know about absolutely no business. I think we've got enough. I think we got enough.
When I say that's probably not the best wording, but they're one of the best teams in the conference, obviously, as well.
Michigan has no business losing to Iowa.
That's what I just said, Jim.
I'm agreeing with you.
Oh,
it's a 10-point spread, and it's in Kinnick. I think the phrase
I know that
has no business. Northwestern, Penn State has no business losing to Northwestern. Ohio State has no business losing to Rutgers. To put Iowa and Michigan in that same boat is absolutely comical to me.
I think the only reason I say that, and like I said, it's probably not warranted. Definitely not warranted. It's because I chose
based
Michigan
off of this year,
and I think that they will cover. And I'm not a bettor, so I probably have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm just saying.
Did you boys get the text that should have been sent out this morning?
No, but we got 10 seconds. So
I was talking to the other guys.
Point.com, the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. An exceptional golf and dining experience.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Corbin, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, east, northeast, kind of, Phoebe's Market here in Bloomington, where, of course, Chef JD just delivered. There you go, bro. That's brisket nachos right there. I can see some corn. I see green peppers, red peppers. I see red onions, some barbecue sauce, some other.
Have you ever seen Bruce Almighty with Jim Carrey?
Yeah,
I don't care about
and he's
Bruce
just
Almighty.
standing there with a
nachos.
plate of cookies, and the guy just comes up and slaps it right out of his hand. I hope somebody does that to Jim.
No, it would be funny. You know what it reminds me of? I met John Daly once. I was a sports anchor in Washington. It was in Portland. I was in Portland, Oregon at an event. Bob Knight was there. He was not he played in the event, but I met John Daly that night. The golfers went to the hotel and bar, blah, blah, blah. They're all in there hanging out. Fuzzy Zeller was in there. Payne Stewart was in there playing the keyboards. I can't remember who else was in there, but John Daly was in there. And Pete kept buying him Midori Sours. That's what he was drinking. And John Daly had ordered a big old plate of nachos and was walking around like, here, have some nachos. Have a nacho. Because Pete kept buying him drinks. And he's like, here, eat some of these nachos, man. So that's my nacho story.
John Daly drunk and free nachos. I mean, that sounds like a good time.
I've got two. That's one of my two favorite sports stories. The other one is getting cussed out by Harry Carey.
Nice.
I mean, I love it. I mean, think of it. Those are two of the most. Those are two big characters in sports, man.
Absolutely. How's everybody doing this Friday?
I'm awesome.
Ready for some more college football?
There you go, John Daly hand nachos. Is that what they were called? Five Left says I would react like a Rottweiler if you slapped that tray of nachos out of my hand. Damn, Skippy. Chef JD worked way too hard on those, man. Those are good looking and tasty. It's Friday game day. Greek, how's it going, bro?
I'm doing great. I'd be feeling a lot better if my under 60 bet would have held last night with BYU and whoever they played, Utah State. But oh well.
Huh? That's funny. I can't believe, and I still can't believe you did not get a text from me.
I got that.
Oh, what did that?
The text this morning.
I forgot. Yeah, I can't remember what was on there. I'd have to pull it back up and just go through what was on that.
You did. Looks like you did.
I'm kidding.
Looks like you
I
did
remember.
Well. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Let's not talk about the past. Let's look to the future now. What do we like tonight and this weekend?
The reason he's saying that is because last night I jumped on the Bengals, and then Utah. They gave them. There's the funny thing. I think it started out as like 22 or something that they were getting when I tried to start betting it at just a 2-leg parlay.
Yep.
And it wouldn't because it said accept change. And
you were getting more points.
So I got more points. I'm like, okay. Then accept change again. It did it like 3 straight times. It bumped up to 26. I'm like, I think we're 28. I'm like, man, you keep doing. Yes, keep giving me the points.
I tell you what, BYU, the 19th ranked team, did not look like they were 28 points better than 1-4 Utah State last night. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying BYU is trash, but them being ranked in front of Minnesota is kind of comical to me. I think
Minnesota is getting. Why is Minnesota getting such disrespected?
Because of people like you, Jim. Because people.
No, I believe in Minnesota. It's just the rest of the team in the Big Ten West.
But that's the point. You just literally answered my question. Like, they just assume because they're in the Big Ten West and they're not named Ohio State or Michigan.
I'm not assuming that. I go on what their play
You
has
asked
been.
me why they're getting disrespected. I'm telling you.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that. I don't think that's the reason, though. I don't think that's the reason. I really don't. I think that I'm surprised that they're not getting more respect than they are. It really, I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, they're pretty damn good.
I mean, Dustin and I talked a lot on the podcast about how both Minnesota and Maryland, if they had an SEC logo on the front of their jersey, would be ranked. I mean, first of all, Maryland would be ranked and Minnesota would be ranked a lot higher. It all kind of plays into it to me.
Because they've clobbered everybody they played. And again, I go back to the Texas Alabama game where Texas was not ranked heading into that game. And then they play Alabama within a point. And they're all of a sudden, I don't remember what it was, 19, 20, somewhere around that area. Right. And I was far more impressed with how Maryland played Michigan because I thought Alabama, they had 16 penalties in that game. Alabama didn't play well, whereas I thought Michigan played a fairly clean game, and Maryland just took it to them. I think Maryland's a much better team. So if that was an SEC matchup, it would be about the gauntlet. It would be about, look at how deep this conference is. Maryland would be ranked. But because it's Maryland and because it's the Big Ten, it's all about I got to drop out and come back in. But it's about how bad Michigan is.
Yeah, and as Dustin drops out and comes back in, I mean, that's what I agree. I mean, people say, oh, these rankings don't matter until, the college football rankings or whatever. And it's just not true. I mean,
it's right. And it's not true because people like Minnesota get screwed by not getting that early love.
I mean, one thing, where Minnesota and Michigan get screwed here is, well, Minnesota and Maryland get screwed because they can't put something on their resume like, so many weeks as a ranked team, yada, yada. I mean, that's stuff that you can help build for PR and recruiting. That's one side of it. Michigan gets screwed because they can't say they beat a ranked team. When I'm telling you, Maryland, if BYU is a ranked team, Maryland is a ranked team. That should have been a ranked win for Michigan. That plays into the college football playoff, selection committee and all that stuff, all the quote unquote eye test and things that get used. So that is where my frustration's at. I don't think very many Big Ten fans are frustrated when people say the SEC is, got the best teams at the top. Nobody can debate how good Alabama and Georgia have been recently. Where the frustration comes from is essentially teams 3 through the bottom that are all in the, as Dustin said, the gauntlet, when I think most of those teams look a lot like most of the teams 3 through the bottom in the Big Ten. And heck, even the Big 12. Show me the easy out playing in the Big 12 this year.
Big 12 is showing out this year. They're showing up.
Heck, the Pac-12 looks better this year. That should be more of the stories that people are talking about is honestly, in my mind, in the last 5, 8 years, whatever, I would even put the top teams in from 1 to 30 to 40. It's more compacted, and these teams are closer to each other than I feel like we've seen in recent years for college football, which to me makes for a fun product every weekend.
Yeah, I think so too. And what was interesting was Joe Klatt was on a podcast, the SDS podcast, and he was asked that question as to why is it that the SEC gets, I don't know if bad rap is the right thing, but why does everybody get tired of the SEC? And a little bit of it has to do with you have a bunch of teams who have no business chanting SEC at the end of games, taking credit for what Alabama and Georgia and the occasional LSU or Auburn might do. And then the other part of it is it gets viewed as it's a gauntlet schedule when I don't know if anybody watched that Auburn Missouri game, but that was some of the worst football. I bet this is the comparison I had was I watched Auburn Missouri and I knew I was watching terrible football. Like I watched Nebraska Northwestern in week 0 and thought I was watching
Right.
Maybe not great football, but solid football. They're outside of Alabama, Georgia. Maybe there's another team that's. I think Ole Miss is good. I think that there are a lot. Kentucky. I think there's a lot of quality teams. Even Tennessee. It's just. I use this comparison all the time. The SEC views the Big Ten, and for every other conference for that matter, the way the Big Ten views the MAC, and that's just not accurate.
Correct. So, Jim, if to expand upon this, I'm speaking to you now, brother, and really I'm speaking to your soul here. I really need you to listen. Put the nachos down for just like 2
I'm
seconds.
listening to everything, brother.
What Dustin just said was spot on, right? And what frustrates me is that Big Ten fans join in on this BS jargon when Michigan fans talk down to every team in the Big Ten and the Big Ten West. They're adding to that junk that leads to teams like, Minnesota being underranked, Maryland not being ranked. I know they're in the East. The point I'm trying to make here is like, you are buying into the jargon that is getting pumped into our brains relentlessly from pretty much anything that's not named, Fox Sports, Big Noon, right? Anything that you listen to is going to tell you how these teams can't compete. We saw Minnesota dog walk Auburn in a bowl game somewhat recently, right? Iowa's record versus SEC teams is really good. Yeah, they lost to Kentucky last year on a last-minute score. Iowa had the lead the entire second half of that game.
I don't count bowl games.
Okay, fine. Don't count bowl games, Jim. I mean, let's not use any on-the-field stuff
I
here.
meant as far as them losing that game, because anything can happen. So I just meant in Iowa's favor.
But this is what we got. Purdue took Tennessee down to the wire. And to me, it doesn't make a gigantic difference that Purdue won the game. By the time you're into the fourth quarter, it was pretty apparent that the talent on the field for Purdue and Tennessee was even. And that was with Purdue not playing with some of their best players. So, there's all of this data and eyeball test proof to show that the teams 3 through the bottom in the Big Ten and the SEC are very close to each other, and it's all thrown out the window, and we have to deal with this on the rankings, and it's absolutely frustrating. They should let somebody like Pick Six Previews do the rankings, not these bonehead AP voters and the people that do this. It's a sham.
Well, the part that where it would fall under a sham, not purposely, but these guys, AP, they're all over the country, and those West Coast guys, they are not seeing all this that's going on here.
Yeah.
And just like the East Coast guys, they're not seeing everything that goes on in the West Coast. You're just not. We've heard stories of people that have people even fill their damn ballots out.
Right.
So
I think it's even worse than that. I think people in the Southeast, they don't watch anything outside of the Southeast except for maybe a big Ohio State game.
You'd have to go down there and tell them that there's actually other games going on besides.
Correct.
That's correct. And those same people are controlling the narrative, and lapdogs on Twitter eat it up. And they just throw out the same, Big Ten West. First of all, people can't even tell the difference between the ACC, Coastal, and Atlantic. I'm convinced that's part of the deal. People are like, I don't know, it's just the ACC. They can't even tell which team. In all honesty, Dustin, do you think that's part of the deal?
Yes, because I'd never even thought of that, but I could not list you. I can list you the teams in the Big Ten East and West. I can list you the teams in the SEC East and West.
Do you know why? Because the ACC sucks. There's not enough teams to do anything.
That's my point, Jim. Most of the ACC does suck.
Yes.
Why is the ACC Coastal not getting the fire than the Big Ten West is? Because of narrative and because people literally
it's the whole ACC. It's the entire ACC sucks.
But that's
besides
not
Clemson.
Do a Twitter search on the word sucks and how it is attached to either the Big Ten West or the ACC. It's 10-1 for the Big Ten West to the ACC.
Yeah.
With that being said, the Big Ten West is down this year. I can recognize that. But this is one of the first years it's been down in 3 or 4 years. And part of the reason people think it's down is because it's not Iowa or Wisconsin at the top, okay? The other thing I would say, another thing that always gets crapped on for the Big Ten West or the Big Ten in general is they don't have an elite team. Looks like Minnesota's pretty elite right now. So if Minnesota goes 11-1,
I don't know that we can call them elite yet.
Don't know if you can't, but we sure do call other teams.
And I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with that. I like Minnesota. I really do. They've got a good thing going. We got to take a break. We've got a lot of games to talk about, including Indiana at Nebraska, of course, Michigan at Iowa. You got Washington at UCLA. That's a mouth-watering one. Purdue at Minnesota. Look at that. We get to talk about that. Illinois, Wisconsin. I think that's going to be an interesting game. And that could be an upset special. Rutgers at Ohio State. That'll be a massacre. Michigan State at Maryland. Really? Boy, that one's going to be a test for Michigan State. If they lose that game, they're going to get kicked down in the East. We got lots more coming up here, and we can talk about my 17-team parlay, Jeffrey.
Can't wait.
17 teams. Payout $1.2 million. We're coming to you from BB's Restaurant here in Bloomington, live, brought to you by our good friends from Cabello, located on the square in Bloomington. Get a taste of the southern traditions of Italy right here in southern Indiana. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Dustin, Schutte, and Jeffrey the Greek right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're a visitor.
Now, let me go on record. I hate nachos.
Yeah, I do too.
I love all the flavors. Hold on. I love all the flavors and everything that's on it.
I know.
But when I personally order nachos, I specifically ask them, I said, can you put the stuff on the side and the nachos over here? And they look at me. They look at me like I'm a Martian. I'm like, huh?
Right.
I said, just put the stuff that goes with the nachos on this side, and just put the chips over here.
Yeah.
So you don't want anything on it. It takes them. I'm like, this ain't rocket science, people.
It's too hard. So there was a party my wife made, like individual nachos. So she double layered the chips and then put all the ingredients on, but they were all separate. So you had an individual. Oh, that's a lot of damn work, obviously.
Yep.
But like, it's just nachos and crab legs, man. I love them both, but it's too much damn work to eat.
Oh, I hate crab legs for that reason.
Oh my God, I love crab. Well,
love them.
Yeah, if you can get them on the half shell. Whoo, man! I'm sorry, but I'm starving.
The first time I had crab legs, I was like 8 or 9, and nobody told me how to do it, so I just like tried to take the whole thing out.
Nice.
Before they
loved it.
It was like an initiation. It's really good.
I was not eating that kind of fancy food at 8 or 9. I was eating Spam probably.
Well, we always went to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and so I don't know that it was like the best crab meat you could ask for, but it was my first introduction to crab meat. Delicious, but too much work, so I very rarely. I'll eat crab meat if it's like in macaroni and cheese, or there's a restaurant here that does crab meat mashed potatoes. Oh,
that sounds good.
It is really good.
Crab mac cheese. There's a seafood place downtown Minneapolis that sells that. Oh, those are good.
Oh my God.
Unbeatable.
Pete's talking about the time we were out in Portland and John Daly had those nachos. He said he smeared the sour cream and stuff with his hands, and we still ate one.
All right, here we go.
Simply go to thehoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you on this Friday. It is a absolutely gorgeous Friday. It's going to be a gorgeous weekend, at least here. We are thinking about our friends in Florida, though, and those in the Carolinas. My family lives in the Carolina area. Our buddy Mitchell Page, who's not with us today because of that Hurricane Ian, who he lives in Charleston, South Carolina now, and they are getting hit. I haven't been able to check while we've been doing the show, but hopefully that things go as well as possible for them and everyone gets back to life as quickly as possible. Welcome back. Jeffrey the Greek joins us from Inside Eyes on Big podcast with Big Kurt. And where can they find that? Oh, I forgot.
Any podcast form. Shout out to the people in Florida. I think one game that Dustin and I love talking about this week, we only had 7 games to talk about. We went an hour and 20. We were both geeked up and ready to go. But speaking of Minnesota, they're at home, homecoming. I think there's a little bit of a rivalry between PJ and Jeff Brom.
How is this only 12 points?
Do
you think that's a lot at home?
I think Brom wants this win. Dustin, if you haven't given your philosophy on what he's doing with O'Connell, I think you should say, because it's pretty darn intriguing.
Yeah, I'm not. So Aiden O'Connell did not play against Florida Atlantic, and I'm not saying he wasn't hurt. What I'm interested to know is, was he like a 50-50 game time decision, and Brom decided, we're not going to play you, we're going to rest you, we're going to play Austin Burton and put something else on tape for Minnesota to have to game plan for, because as Greek brought up on the pod, the offense did not look the same. It was, there were shades of Jeff Bromism. I don't know what the word would be. He had his fingerprints on it, but it was a different offense that Minnesota would have to game plan for. So did he say, you know what? I think if Aiden O'Connell was 100%, he plays in that game. So I just think maybe there's a little bit of gamesmanship going on there, because Jeff Brom wants to get this win, get to 1-1 in the Big Ten, and maybe that's the best way to it. So that's for that reason. I think Purdue gets an upset win, but at the very least, I think 12 points is way too high.
Yeah, so Dustin and I obviously, we come to the table when we record. We work off the same sheet, but I have no idea what he's picking for, game totals or anything. We both picked Purdue to cover. Dustin went ahead and called the upset. I'm not. The weird thing is, and I bet Dustin would agree, it wouldn't shock me if Minnesota won this game 38-10. It would not. We might find out again just how dominant Minnesota is on Saturday. But man, there's just this gut feeling after watching all these Big Ten games that involve Purdue that this sure seems like a game that Purdue bows up and Brom just goes at it.
Or is Minnesota the elite team of the Big Ten West, and they show that? That's the thing. If there's an elite team in the Big Ten West, it's Minnesota, and if they're elite, they need to show that this weekend. Not that you can't lose, because it happens every weekend, upsets, but they're at home. It's homecoming. That's just not a game where you should.
I get it.
Lose.
I mean, again, I wouldn't be shocked, but I would say even a 27-14 win, or a 30-21 win. That's a darn good win for Minnesota. Right. I think Purdue's a lot better than their 2-2 record. That's my opinion.
Well,
I don't disagree with that. But all right, so you guys are both picking Purdue. I'm going to go with Minnesota definitely to win, but we've got to I'll take them to cover. So we'll see how that works out.
The underrated, I know we got more, but the underrated stat in this game is Purdue's defense has allowed just 1 rushing touchdown. Minnesota's strength is running the football. Minnesota's pass defense, I believe, is statistically the best in the Big Ten, or if it's not, it's right up there. And Purdue, obviously, their biggest strength is throwing the football. So it's going to be an interesting defensive matchup too.
Yeah, love it.
What next game you want to talk about?
Heck, let's go to Kinnick. As the week went on, a week and a half ago, I would have said Michigan by 4 touchdowns. Things changed over the weekend. Iowa's offense looked a little bit better. Their rushing attack looked a little bit better versus what I think is actually.
But they were playing.
Rutgers is pretty good. Rutgers is pretty good. They've got a pretty good defense. Like, it's a better defense than people give it credit for. At the same time, Michigan looked good. They handled what they had to versus Maryland. But J.J. McCarthy showed some cracks, as a freshman. And this is their first trip out of Michigan Stadium, and into Kinnick with a freshman quarterback. I mean, we've seen this script literally 5 times before, and the last 6 times a top 5 teams come into Kinnick. Do I think Iowa's going to put up 400 yards of offense and 4 touchdowns? Of course not. I don't, but I think they can run the ball decently, and I think they can force McCarthy into some uncomfortable situations. It's a fun game. I think if that line would have been put out again a week and a half ago, it would have been 17, 18 points Michigan, but it started out at 10 and a half, and I think that's for a reason.
I like the defense in this game on both sides. I think Iowa can keep Michigan's offense in check for the reasons that Greg just pointed out, because you did see some issues with J.J. McCarthy. I still think he's a really good quarterback, and he'll get better as the season. Kind of like Cade McNamara last year. He got way better as the season progressed. I think that's the same. I just think that Michigan, with Blake Corum and with some of the receivers they have, they're going to bust a play or two, and they're going to have a big game that either they score on or they get right up to the goal line, and that's the difference, because I don't think Iowa has that capability. So that's why I don't think Michigan covers, but I think they have some big plays that separates, and I think it's I think it's really close. I don't like 10 and a half because I could see this being a 7-point game and Michigan scores a late touchdown to secure it. I could also see this being an 11-point game and Iowa, gets a pick 6 or fumble recovery or something and scoops and scores and makes you panic a little bit. So I don't like it. I think Iowa covers, but I think my score prediction for this was like 24-15 or something, like just under that 10-point spread.
Yep. Mine was almost the exact same. Jim, you kind of brought it up, but Illinois at Wisconsin.
I would say so. You guys are both taking Iowa. I'm taking Michigan.
Okay.
Michigan to cover.
Michigan to cover. Okay. Illinois at Wisconsin.
I think this is going to be an intriguing game, and I think this could be an upset special here.
Dustin went ahead and picked it. Go ahead, DS.
Yeah, I just don't like the way Wisconsin has looked defensively. Their tackling has been sloppy. It was really sloppy against Washington State. They've had penalties. They still have a really good running back in Braylon Allen. I still don't have any faith in Graham Mertz. And I think there's just the way that Illinois' schedule panned out with them having a bye week, playing an early game this week against Chattanooga on Thursday, having those extra 2 days to prepare for Wisconsin, knowing they have to go on the road. Chase Brown is maybe the most underrated player potentially in the country, absolutely in the Big Ten. This to me does not look like a typical Wisconsin team. That's not to say they can't get to 6 or 7 wins, but I think Indiana's really happy they played Illinois in week 1 and not week 4 or 5 or later, because Illinois is hitting their stride defensively. They're really good. I think this is going to be a ground and pound Brett Bielema style game. And I think right now Illinois is playing a better brand of football in that category than Wisconsin.
And you brought up Chase Brown being the underrated player in the country. Illinois might be the most underrated team in the country in general. Their defense is way better than even people realize. And like a question I asked Dustin, who's got the quarterback advantage here, Illinois or Wisconsin? He very quickly said Illinois, because I think Tommy DeVito is better. And oh, by the way, this is Brett Bielema's first time as a Big Ten Illinois coach going back into Camp Randall. If you don't think he doesn't want this one, you're crazy. I mean, that dude's a competitor, and he would love to get out of there with the W.
So what's the picks, guys?
I got Illinois winning, not just covering.
I've got Wisconsin in a squeaker, but Illinois covering.
All right, I'm taking Illinois. I'm trying to decide if it's an out and out win, but I definitely take the points. I'll decide if I want to go money line or not. But let's see.
Let's
Michigan
do
State.
it. We're gonna. Should we? Well, do we got time for both Maryland, Michigan State, and Indiana, Nebraska?
Yeah, we'll do Maryland, Michigan State quickly. Maryland, Michigan State, another interesting game because all right, these are two tectonic plates that are colliding, and one of them is going to end up on top. And I mean by that, I mean third, fourth place in the Big Ten East. They're Indiana kind of took that role away from Michigan State a couple of years ago. I thought Michigan State was back. They haven't really done that. Maryland's trying to get up there with another Tagliavola, and they've got a powerful offense. That's a lot of points to give up to Michigan State.
If by tectonic plate you mean there's a lot of rumbling in Michigan State, I'll agree with you there because I mean, right now they would sign up for fourth place in the Big Ten East. Yeah. They better be careful they don't wind up in 5th, 6th, or 7th. And I'm being serious. Like Indiana, Michigan State, and Rutgers, Michigan State. Those are all jump balls now for Sparty. I don't get this line. I told DS I felt like it's a banana in the tailpipe situation. I feel like Maryland should be favored by.
You're not going to fall for a banana in the tailpipe, are you?
There you go. You got it. See, I told you, DS.
Yeah, you did.
I think that, in my opinion, I think this is still the public and Vegas not catching up to how good Maryland is and how bad Michigan State is. So I'll take Maryland all day to cover the 7.
This was our double
8 now.
Oh, it's up to
It's
8. I still.
It went. Okay.
This is still. We both, I think, had Maryland covering as our lock of the week because I really like that line. Maryland can throw the ball all over Michigan State's defense. Oh, by the way, they actually developed a run game, and their defense not great, but it's solid enough to win football games, especially against a Michigan State offense that has shown some major gaps. So I think Maryland covers. I don't think Maryland wins by 35. But Lasley's not going to let up if he gets a lead.
No.
So it's possible. I think it's like a 10 to 14 point win for Maryland, and I still take them to cover. But this one could get ugly.
We'll see. All right. Indiana travels to Nebraska, an environment that normally would be very, very difficult for a team that has struggled like Indiana has. But fortunately, Nebraska may be struggling a little bit more. They're definitely going through more issues with the coaching changes and all of that. A new defensive coordinator. I just don't see any way. I shouldn't say that. I don't see Nebraska winning this game. I think that because Indiana has a tempo game, because they can score easily, much more frequently, I think Indiana is going to win this game. What is and they're an underdog, so I'm taking Indiana now and the out-and-out win.
Right. So that's the thing is like I completely understand anybody that would besmirch Nebraska right now from what we've seen on the field. I mean, they have looked downright.
I did not mean to
awful.
besmirch.
No, they deserve besmirching. They are a besmirchable football team right now. But yet it's a 5-point spread for Nebraska. And it's like, why is that? So I sit there and, it's the second week in a row Indiana's been on the road. I think that adds up. Not only that, you're on the road at night, and certainly Nebraska is down, but the crowd won't be. I mean, it's going to be a crazy crowd full of crazy Nebraska fans. And maybe there's a bit of, and they're coming off an idle week. Nebraska's coming off an idle week. So after all of those things start getting added together, I would have took Indiana for sure like a week and a half ago, another one of those that's changed. But you start adding that stuff up, and then you look at what Vegas put out there for a line. That was another banana in the tailpipe moment for me. So I'm like, Vegas must be onto something. I took Nebraska to win and cover. I hate that bet. By the way, I don't want any part of this. I think I heard you say before that this could be a fun game. I agree. We'll see what happens.
I think that this is tailor-made to be a typical Nebraska, even though he's no longer there, under Scott Frost type of game. Indiana does not start off games well. I think that with Nebraska's offense and Indiana's poor defense, they could jump out potentially to like a 21-3, 21-10 type of game. The Huskers are feeling really good about themselves, and then Indiana turns it on in the second half. I just can't get that out of my head. And the fact that Indiana has won 3 close games and Nebraska hasn't won a close game since like World War II, I just think Indiana's going to I think it's going to look ugly in the first half, but I think Indiana wins this game like 33-30 or something, I think is what I've picked in this game.
It would actually be like – it would actually – no. I mean, Dustin, at this point, I'd almost be disappointed if that's not the game script that happens that you've laid out. I mean, it's just too perfect.
Right?
Well, all right, I want to quickly ask you about one other game because we've only got 1 minute or less. Washington at UCLA. Washington is a 2.5-point underdog.
I mean, yeah, again, that stinky cheese line, I've seen a lot of people like UCLA. Sorry to Michigan State fans, but Washington has not played a very tough schedule. So I would take UCLA. I think I like the over 64 in that game. Like, let's see some points tonight.
We'll certainly find out. And if my 17-team parlay hits, baby, we're going to be live from Bali next week. I'll bring JD with us. We'll be making the food. All the BB's food. We'll take it to Bali, and we'll be down there.
I'll take you up on that offer.
If you hit,
trust me, we're going to be live on set. We'll be like Snoop Dogg, man, on the show.
If you hit it, I'm going to start charging a talent fee.
Well, you have to have talent first.
Oh, zinger! Friday zinger.
Boom,
way to end the
baby.
show. End it on a high note.
Spicy
Love you
nachos
guys.
and spicy takes.
Cannot tell you guys how much we appreciate you. The great Jeffrey the Greek. Make sure you check out Eyes on Big podcast with Big Kurt and Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com. Dustin Schutte obviously here every day with us as well, so thank him. Also, thanks to Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com, Zach Osterman from the Indy Star, and Steve Barrett from Inside Nebraska. What a gigantic day today we had. Also, John, the producer. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here, and I cannot thank you enough. We appreciate you so much. Love you guys, and we will be back on Monday to do it again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Pregnant pause.
What happened? Uh-oh.
Is John still with us?